I'm stargazing in my backyard again and trying to look for the dog star because we want to talk about that today. But you're not going to see the dog star in your night sky, not in the summertime, but it's up there in the daytime. And we're going to talk about dog days of summer today. Though most of those hot days have passed, we still got a lot of summer left. Glad that you've joined us today to stay star curious. I'm Mark Marquette. Stargazer MarQ, otherwise known. For over 50 years, I've been promoting astronomy from your backyard in various astronomy groups and talks around the country. And it's my pleasure to always talk astronomy from your own backyard on Stay Curious here. Our outreach vehicle, the American Space Museum. And we'll be doing a lot of downtown urban stargazing this fall, but hard to do that in the summertime because it doesn't get dark till late and everyone's going to bed early. But come the winter time, November, December, January, when it's dark before 7 o'clock, get a lot of stargazing time in before bedtime. And we're going to do that here on our own property here in downtown Titusville, Florida at the American Space Museum. So I wanted to welcome everybody following us again. Welcome Marty Winkle, my co-producer for 5 years and over 1,200 episodes. And we've done a couple hundred episodes of Stargazer MarQ on this program to keep you looking up and let you realize, one, that we are just a rocky body orbiting a regular star, and we are lucky to have a thin blue line keeping us all alive here for several million years as the humanoid species has been roaming this earth that's been around for over 5 billion years. Come by and visit us at the American Space Museum on Pine Street. We're always improving our galleries and making renovations both inside and out to the curb appeal, particularly the last year. And how old is the moon, you may ask? And the moon, Marty, is 25 days old. And there we're looking at a 25-day-old moon there. It's actually about 24 days old. So it is, to talk like an astronomer is to talk like how many days old is the moon. And if I say the moon is 24 days old, where is it in the night sky? It's in the morning sky, okay, before sunrise. And way after midnight, you have to stay up to see it, like 2, 3 in the morning it's rising. As opposed to a 12-day-old moon that you're going to see in your backyard as what we call the gibbous phase, just a couple days before the 14-day-old moon that is the full moon. So we like you to speak a little bit like an astronomer. This is how we talk. You go outside anytime and look at the moon. No one owns the original in astronomy. You can make your own pictures, your own drawings, like somebody did of this crater called Copernicus. Very favorite crater. It's got Copernic there. Copernicus is what it's called there. And see such things as the sites where the Apollo 15 lunar module landed, where the blue mark is there in the middle of the photograph. That little blue line, that's on Hadley Rill over Mount Hadley, where it popped over and landed in 1961. Also want to make you aware that if you lose a little sleep tonight or have insomnia and have a telescope, something's been happening that I didn't really broadcast because a lot of you don't have telescopes and it's happening at 4 in the morning. This is a window where for every 16 years, the large moon of Saturn called Titan, which is very interesting, and hope we've got a NASA probe going there because it's covered with lakes and rivers of liquid methane. That's right, flowing methane at under over 200 below zero. Well, this moon aligns up with the Earth, Sun, and Saturn, that its shadow is cast on top of the rings. Now, the rings of Saturn aren't that visible because they're almost edge on. They're opening up again from being almost invisible a couple months ago. This, again, is celestial mechanics. So these are 6 times this summer that amateur astronomers have seen the shadow on Titan. I've done this a few years past, a few decades past. Probably be my last opportunity to ever see it because it's not going to happen again until like 2041. and I'll certainly be an older man then. Maybe I'll get a chance to see it, but someone will have to wheel me out of the nursing home to do it, I think. You'll do it. Marty will be around. He'll do it. All right. Well, I am going to try to see it through a telescope, not record it photographically, and I'll let you know how that all works out tonight. From about 2 in the morning to about 5 is when the transit happens. So all kinds of help on the internet to let you look at that, but you do need a pretty good telescope. When we talk about things in the night sky and do Stargazer MarQ on our Stay Curious program, I want to always remind you that we, again, to talk like an amateur astronomer, is to talk in where is an object in relation to another object by the degrees it is apart from each other. And at an arm stretched out, your little finger is 1 degree, and that little finger will always cover up the moon. Always. The moon's only half a degree across. You would think, Mark, it would take the Scout's honor sign 3 fingers of 5 degrees to cover up the moon. Well, just get up in the morning, see the moon crescent, and it will take your little finger at arm's length, and that'll cover it up. 3 fingers wide is the distance between the pointer stars of the Big Dipper. 10 degrees is again the bowl of the Dipper. 15 degrees is from one tip of the Big Dipper to the end of it, and 25 degrees is a big span. Oh, there's your, yeah, go like that with the 15, and then 25 is your whole hand spread apart there. Important to know to talk to, and when something's within 5 degrees of another object, it's pretty close to it. When we look up at the night sky, the moon is in the morning, so when it gets dark, you're going to see the brighter stars and no moonshine blotting out the fainter stars. We talked last week about the constellation Scorpius and how beautiful it is, like a fish hook directly south right now this time of year. Well, you look up overhead and you're going to see 3 bright stars, very distinct bright stars. You can't miss them, spread out, each about 25 degrees apart from each other, spread out even further than my hands like that. The brightest one is Vega in the constellation Lyra the Harp. Deneb is the tail of Cygnus the Swan, or the Northern Cross. You can see the cross in the Cygnus constellation. And Aquila the Eagle, its brightest star is Altair. So Vega, Deneb, and Altair make what is called the summer triangle. All right. The summer triangle is not a constellation. It is what we call an asterism. Okay, summer triangle asterism, easy to spot and find. And guess what? The Milky Way goes right through it. There's another rendition of the summer triangle, and you connect the dot to dots, and going right through it is the Milky Way. All right. In fact, this star is Altair. I mean, that's the top star is Vega. Altair's over here, and Deneb is over there. And the Milky Way is going right through it. And the Milky Way to the right in this combined image of about 10 photos is where Scorpius is in Sagittarius. Well, we'll tease you with a little something here. If Saturn was 250,000 miles away, okay, how much of the sky would it cover up? Is that picture fact or fiction in the upper left-hand corner? If I went out to Cocoa Beach and Saturn was in the night sky, which it will be at about 10 o'clock at night, will that be what we see? We'll give you that answer. Well, we want to talk about the dog days of summer, and doggone it, I probably should have talked about it a couple weeks ago, but I was out of pocket, as you all know. But the dog days of summer, and Marty, would you go over there and get my script that I left over there? I'm sorry about that. We're not talking, dog days of summer is a real thing, basically from mid-July, in the printer. The printer there. Yeah. Thank you, Marty's getting my printed script here of the dog days of summer, though I really don't need anything about it. we're experiencing them now. No, kids are back in school. Kids are going to college, back to elementary school, junior high, high school, but it's still hot as heck. And when Marty and I went to school, August was still a non go to school month. Nobody went back to school until Labor Day, first week of September. But times have changed, and the dog days of summer do extend into August. And what does all that mean? The hot, sultry days of summer. They were historically the period when the rising of a star system uh, and the brightest star in this winter sky, Sirius, in the whole sky, okay, was in the daytime sky. They knew that. Dog days of summer, we're going to tell you what it refers to, but these are the punishingly hot days of summer where people are lethargic, okay? This was noted since antiquity. In the Roman days, dog days were called a time when the sea boiled, wine turned sour, dogs grew mad, warriors raged with anger, and all other creatures became languid. All right, maybe causing diseases, burning fever, hysterics, and frenzies because people just couldn't get away from the heat. Now, that's not such a problem today with a thing called air conditioning. But air conditioning, as we know it, has been around less than 100 years. And in those cold days of the 1700s, let's say, in the 1800s, no electricity, no fans. You just had to move the air yourself with a hand fan. Um, so the Romans were up on this big time. But dog days of summer in today's vernacular do not talk about the dogs of the Russian spacecraft that they launched Strelka and Laika here, who came back safely. They're not talking about dog days like that. We're not talking about some neat dogs like these two hounds, okay, a little cute little Dachshund and poodle there. Nor are we talking about the Rhodesian Ridgeback dogs of astronaut Leland Melvin in this famous photo. Okay. We're not even talking about old Beanie Weenie out there catching a suntan. All right, with a little Mai Tai in a coconut shell there. Nor are we talking about dogs and other animals on the moon when we talk about the dog days of summer. Okay, what we are talking about is that heat. And where does the heat come from? All right. And like I said, it's hard to remove ourselves away from air conditioning, but oh my gosh, air conditioning makes such a big deal in our lives. The 90-degree heat that we have for 3 months in a row in in southern Florida here would be unbearable without air conditioning. Marty, though, you worked at Cape Canaveral in the 1960s where there were a lot of unair conditioned workspaces. So you know what I'm talking about, right? Can't get away from the heat. Comment about that.
Well, you can't get away from heat. I agree with that. But even back in the 60s, we had AC in virtually every building. I can't think of one other than on the MSS on the 320-foot level.
Okay.
No AC there. You had blowers there.
Well, NASA could afford the bill in doing that. But yes, that was interesting that, today people complain about how hot it is. I'm going, well, yeah, it is from my house to my car and from my car to the museum, getting inside of it. Uh, but a lot of us feel like this. And that's why I'm not in favor of going to school in August, particularly this early in August, because uh, it's hard to get outside and do activities, football players practicing in the heat in all levels. And you might just feel like a doggone dog tired sometimes. Record breaking all over the country this year, particularly New England was sometimes hotter than Florida. Dog days of summer. What caused it? All right. It's in literature. The Greek and Roman works mention it. Dog days appear in John Webster's play The Duchess of Malfi in the 1600s. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol talks about dog days. And a couple other things we'll talk about here in just a second. uh, as I promote that here to end. So there's still time to go to the beaches, but why is it called the dog days? Okay. And has very little to do with keeping our dogs happy. It has everything to do with the path that the sun takes in the sky because of the 23.5 degree tilt of the Earth's axis. I'm looking around for my Earth globe. I don't see it in here. That's fine, Marty. But the sun is higher up. Everybody knows when you go to school, you see the Earth globe and it's tilted. Something knocked us over from spinning straight up and down, just like something knocked over Mars at the same inclination, weirdly. So that means in the summer, the sun's path in the northern hemisphere is very low to the horizon, but it climbs higher in the summer. And just like I say, you don't go out to the beach at 9 o'clock to get a tan from 9 to 11. The sun's not up high enough. But from 11 to 2 or 3, the sun is up so high that the sun's rays are more direct, and that makes them hotter. When the sun is lower and that ray of light is spread over a longer path, it is not as direct and not as hot. And that's the whole secret to the dog days of summer being hotter than winter, is the tilt of the Earth's axis. We would not have seasons if we just spin straight up and down like a top. Wherever you lived is about what the weather you would have all year long. How do you get out of the heat, though? Avoid exercise, that's a myth. Take a cold shower, that's a myth. Sleep naked, that's a myth. Eat a curry dish, supposedly that's a fact. To lower your body temperatures, eat something hot. Or jump in the swimming pool, right? Well, the dog days of summer phrase comes back from the Egyptian days. Very keen astronomers, they watched the stars intently. They knew that the stars were in the sky and shielded from the brightness of the sun, all right? And they also knew that the brightest star in the sky, named Sirius, was a very important star because when it rose in the east, the Nile was flooding in the springtime, and that would give them a season. That's how they gauge the seasons. Everybody get ready to plant because the water will be plentiful. So you can imagine even Cleopatra sitting around watching a game and pondering on a dog days of summer how hot it is. Well, the Egyptians thought that this star, Sirius, controlled temperature in the sky because it was so bright. Now, Sirius is in a constellation called Canis Major, the big dog. Yep, these are in the Canis Minor, just above this Canis Major, are the dogs of Orion the hunter. Okay, Canis Major might look like this. It looks more like a stick figure of a person, but the head of the person is Sirius. But not even Marty could conjure up a dog out of that. Okay, this little stick figure. But yet the ancients gave these names to things for reason, entertainment. But they knew Sirius was in the sky below the sun in the days of July and August, all right? And they thought that the heat of Sirius and from the being in Canis Major, the dog constellation, added heat to the earth and made summertime hotter. Thus, when it was highest in the sky in July and August, those were the dog days of summer, named after the dog star Sirius of Canis Major. There's a beautiful picture of it. It actually has another star orbiting it. It is not that big around. That is an overexposure made to accentuate its colors. We're not looking at the real disk of the star there. That is just an overexposure of it. So the dog days of summer, something that we're ending right now, something that everybody's heard the phrase of, something that everybody embraces, I think, on there. So a couple things about the dog days of summer, now that you know the cause of it. A couple urban pop culture things associated with it. How about Dog Day Afternoon? All right, August 1972, he robbed a bank. Al Pacino in one of the great movies of its time, all right, back in the 70s, showing you the dog days of heat, making somebody irrational. And Watership Down by Richard Adams. All you little baby boomers out there, remember this Watership Down, using rabbits in a community in a backyard uh, meadow to get across some of the social ills of the time on there. That has a dog day. Dog day promotions are often at ballparks, okay, around our country. Um, they boost ticket sales and mid-afternoon sales with dog day promotions on there, selling hot dogs and such. What else is on there? In music, uh, I'm looking at anybody, not really. I can think of Diamond Dogs by David Bowie, but Florence and the Machine's 2009 Dog Days were over. Within Temptations 213 Dog Days. Dog Days is also the title of a 2012 opera by composer David T. Little. And there's The Head of David's in music, Dog Day Sunrise, covered by Fear Factory in 1995. So some things that there's even a Japanese anime series called Dog Days. So there's even a Dog Days from Diary of a Wimpy Kid series in there. So indeed, something that does embrace our culture, Dog Days. And there's our Apollo monument out there, sweltering in the heat of the Dog Days. And yes, it is fact that is this fiction or fact right there? That is a fact. This is what the Saturn would look like if it was placed where the moon is. There, going up there, right? Everybody watching there. Mitch Rothman's watching today, and Dean Babcock, Robert Law, Tom Celentano, Dave Stange. Wouldn't it be cool to go outside and see Saturn this big if it was as close to the moon as instead of nearly 1 billion miles away? Carlton Bailey's surviving the dog days out there at Canaveral Groves. Tommy Usiak, RG Jubilee. Great to meet you, RG. I'll show people who RG Jubilee is tomorrow on our show. Helene Milbert. Thank you, Helene, for a great conversation today. Robert Law up in Dundee, Scotland. Elena Adhikari in South Africa. And Gary Gerald. And thanks for the phone call the other day, Gary. Hope that you all enjoyed some doggone facts on Dog Day summer ending here. And keep staying curious with Pluto there. Pluto the dog, Pluto the planet, and doggone it, it'll always be a planet in my mind. So, Marty, thank you for a good Streamlabs job today. Hope that y'all learned a little bit of something about why it's so hot. Of course, it doesn't have anything to do with a star in the sky 8 light years away. Its heat is negligible, all right? But it was something that the ancients embraced, not because of their ignorance, but because of their lack of knowledge. A big difference there. And as we learn and grow, I hope that you enjoy learning things like this on Stay Curious. So until tomorrow, we'll have a show about current events. I've got some guests lined up as I look on the wall over there. I've got a very special program that I will announce tomorrow for Thursday that you're all going to enjoy. And we've got the last week of August, I got 3 guests lined up. So appreciate y'all sharing and subscribing and letting everybody know that the content we provide on Stay Curious is unlike any other. After all, where else could you learn about the dog days of summer here? And we have until September 22nd, more than 5 weeks of summer left. So hope that you all enjoy it and enjoy your weekends wherever you are across our fruited plain and on our beautiful globe. So until next time, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.